You're watching the time. It's not very fair, is it? Oh, okay, so we're now 2:15. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop on leading on behaviour support. So just a few introductions. My name is Lia Copestake. I'm the head at Newton's Walk and also the Kingsmead Hospital Medical Provision, known as Castle. And with me is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Amanda Fower. I'm Lia's deputy both at Newton's Walk and at the Hospital Medical Provision, and also the deputy SENCO for Newton's Walk and the Medical Centre.
Oh, is this working? So, welcome SENCOs. What is your superpower? You are all amazing, and you have that you work in, and Amanda knows that firsthand, and also I do, as I'm trained as a SENCO, although I don't work as a SENCO at the moment. So the workshop aims for this afternoon are to consider the role of the SENCO as a support to staff as well as the pupil advocate that you all are, to reiterate what we know but others might have forgotten about behaviour, and
to explore possible strategies for supporting our colleagues to meet behavioural needs in your schools.
So we thought a good place to start with this as was the teachers' standards, and obviously we're always reminded of them in performance management, but there is a whole section on behaviour, section 7, are expected to manage behaviour effectively to ensure a good and safe learning environment. And some of these are quite a good place to start, because it's essential that teachers have clear rules and routines for behaviour in classroom, take responsibility for promoting good and courteous behaviour both in classrooms and around the school in accordance with the school's behaviour policy. Also to have high expectations of behaviour and establish a framework for discipline with a range of strategies using praise, sanctions and rewards consistently and fairly. Manage classes effectively using approaches which are appropriate to pupils' needs in order to involve and motivate them, and maintain good relationships with pupils, exercise appropriate authority, and act decisively when necessary. And I think you'll all agree that when you read those out and really focus in on them, that is sometimes what some teachers forget. And I'm not blaming teachers in any way, shape or form, because that wouldn't be fair, but it is clearly very much stated there. Keywords: relationships, consistently, fairly, clear rules, routines, take responsibility. I think those really are the key words that we have to remember. And it's not about you as SENCOs versus the teacher. It's about working together with them. And as members, hopefully, of senior leadership teams, as all SENCOs should be, I think that is something that sometimes needs to be remembered.
So just a few things what people forget about challenging behaviour. So all behaviours we know, I mean, more or less every conference that we go to, every meeting we go to, we're always being told, aren't we, behaviour is a form of communication. We all know that, but many people forget about it. They also forget about what the functions of behaviour, you know, they see the behaviours, but they don't tend to see the function and just see the behaviours. So, well, what we have to ask ourselves is, what do they need? What do the children need? What are they asking us? And what are they trying to avoid? So at the moment, I've got somebody in the class that I teach that will argue with me endlessly until, and that's a way of him avoiding his work. So he will argue and argue with me about other things, about anything else, but all it does is stop him from starting his work. So when you're looking at behaviours, think about what are they trying to avoid. It might not be staring you in the face. It might be, you know, something that you need to like dig out and look for. So, and as SENCOs, we know there's been a lot of training going on, hasn't there, through the from the LA and things that SENCOs can dip in and out of. So you're probably the person that understands best in school, but there are other myths that need dispelling.
And this one is about just reminding us, it's a quotation that Amanda and I use quite a lot, and I think it came from Roald Dahl film Matilda originally, but and there he is. And it's sometimes as staff in school, they don't necessarily say this, but it's almost like they're thinking it. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm big, you're small, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's the sort of I'm in charge and you should do as I say. And it does happen, doesn't mean it's right, but people have a lot on. And people say, in my day that wouldn't have happened, however.
So we can't solve all of our pupils' difficulties. We can only make sure that the time that we spend with them, that they're with us in school, is, you know, some of the best times that they can have. Some behaviour can be attributed to learning difficulties, and as teachers, we're usually good at spotting this and responding to it. So that's something that your teachers and staff in school will be able to pick up if it is a learning difficulty that's causing the challenging behaviour. However, some will be experience unimaginable difficulties beyond the classroom that we cannot control. And again, it's about, for those children that are coming in from you know, tricky lives at home, is to try and make sure that their school life is not as tricky. We can't just expect them to switch off what is happening at home or in the past. You know, that's just not a realistic thing to be expecting them to do. And, you know, as soon as they cross the door, to be able to be like a school child and to you know, to follow the expectations of school, that can be quite difficult for some children. And we might not be what they truly need. So they, you know, it might be something else that they do want, but we have to try and find a way that we can accommodate to that need as much as we can to help that children, like I say, have a more safe, secure outcomes. So however much we might want to help, we have to do as much as we can and try and really unpick why our pupils are behaving in this way, and then try and help them in as much as, and give them as much support and help as we can.
So this is another myth. So tough pupils need tough behaviour management. And I think this is where you will have heard this. We probably have all heard this. And how many times have we heard phrases like, someone needs to lay the law down, or what this child needs is a firm hand. And although sanctions can exist in the learning process, discipline isn't a cut and paste process. So just as pupils who need differentiation in their learning, so too they need differentiation when they're learning how to behave. Because if behaviour can be learned, it can also be taught, which is really important. We often hear people say, oh, that's just a learned behaviour. Well, we can throw that back and say, well, then teach them how to behave. I know probably it's quite brave to be able to say that in the heat of the moment, but that is, you know, if something can be learned, it can also be taught. So discipline, so for that people probably think sanctions is just one piece to help solve a much greater problem. And conversations where we actually listen are incredibly powerful, and that doesn't necessarily mean just listening to the children. It's actually listening to our staff who are stressed, have a lot on their plate. it's very important that we listen to staff and give them the time. Quite often here at Newton's Walk and at Kingsmead, we'll get telephone calls from senior leaders at other schools who are, they almost don't know what to do to help, and they just want time actually to have a bit of a rant, and they may say at the beginning of the conversation that they're about to exclude a pupil, and usually by the end of the conversation we've talked a few things through. We haven't given away any magic wands because they don't exist, but we have actually listened to them, offered some suggestions, maybe said actually what they're doing is right, and some suggestions of how to possibly help them managing their staff as well as the pupil. And more often than not, that child remains in school and goes on to be positive. They might refer and ask for further help, but actually that initial conversation with staff can be incredibly powerful. And it enables all of us to help understand the function of the behaviour. So that might be the conversation of what is the function, what do they need, what are they avoiding. So communication is very, very important.
Okay, so this is another one. Pupils should trust me, and that's about finding trust over time. They won't just trust people straight away. And again, this is reference to their backgrounds. If they've come from untrustworthy homes, or where people have said one thing and done another thing. So to build up a trusting relationship with a pupil in school will take some time and not immediately, and they will test it to the limit, as we know. However much we think that we are trustworthy, some pupils just believe that all adults are out to get them. So again, it's building up that trust. The attitude is formed over time from experiences and familial and societal influences. So they've built up this picture, and it doesn't matter if you keep saying, but that's not, I'm okay. But it will take lots, like I say, lots of testing before you can get to that I'm okay, we're okay with some children. When we're saying a new day or a fresh start, it cannot be said flippantly. So if we are saying a new day, it needs to be a new day. If it is a fresh start, it needs to be a fresh start. We can't backtrack again, because that will that's not the way to go about getting a trusting relationship. If you say something, then we need to follow through and we need to do it. And we need to hold the line, and we need to hold the line where it is, so there's no pushing, and children will push against that line. But what we do need to do is do what we say, and not be flippant about it. And just there, we have to mean it, otherwise they will not trust us. So we have to mean what we are saying. Children are very good at spotting if you are being genuine or sincere, and again, that will cause some distrust if they think you are not being genuine and you're not being sincere in what you're saying. So we do have to mean it. So again, like I said before, it has to be continually worked on. It's not going to come in a week. It's not going to come in 2 weeks. It might take a term, 2 terms, but it will take time. And what we do have to do is keep trying. We have to be relentless in trying to build up that trust. And you can see from that pop-up there, every child needs a fresh start every day. So holding on to what happened yesterday means less time moving forward to today. So that's, what can we change about yesterday? There's not a great deal that we can do. We can only move forward and that way, and not keep reminding the what's happened previously. Sometimes, again, many of you would have been on the attachment and trauma training. Sometimes that can build up shame. And again, that can be a very difficult thing to unpick and get to the bottom of that. So we must try to avoid all that shame, heaping shame on children as well.
Yeah, we've heard many a time actually when we go and do observations. I said, well, I've told them it's a fresh start, and then the child arrives and they've done all the right thing, meeting and greeting at the door. They've walked the door, good morning, little Johnny. I hope you're going to have a better day than you did yesterday. Flippantly said, and the damage can be done. So child thinks, clearly haven't forgotten about yesterday. Thank you very much for that. And that shame element of, I already feel bad. You're just making me now feel worse. It's very, very hard. So how do we help the staff in school to understand that it's actually challenging behaviour and not really challenging children or pupils? So it's the behaviour that is challenging. It's the behaviour that we don't like. It's not actually the children that we don't like. I know there are some children who some people are less easy to like, because they're not the ones who do all their homework, put their hands up, say yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full foot. They're the ones who do challenge us. But as SENCOs, we're the advocates for those pupils, for all pupils, not the ones necessarily who are struggling just with their learning. They're struggling with school. And our role, or your role, is inclusion. And it would be helpful for behaviour support that we also need to help staff. You know, we are the experts. You are the experts. You know a lot. You've been on a lot of this fabulous training around trauma, attachment, shame, behaviour management. You understand it best in your school, better than your head teacher, better than the deputy head teacher. You do know what you're talking about. And you may have a teaching role in school alongside your SENCO responsibilities. You might not. And actually, probably those of you who do have a teaching role are better placed in some respects to help teachers, because you are doing the same as them. And you'll know that teachers are exhausted. Lesson observations are back on. Performance measures for pupils, therefore for us, are also back. And we all know about the new, and because everyone's been in lockdown for 18 months or in and out of lockdown, doesn't actually mean that I think pretty much nearly every school has got somebody possibly knocking on their door because we've missed deadlines and everything's going to happen. And people are stressed. They're not just stressed because of COVID and all the other changes to their lives, but people are stressed. We're living in this very, very uncertain time at the moment. Nobody quite knows what's going to happen tomorrow, yesterday. Everything keeps changing, and if we're feeling that as well-adjusted adults, then our staff are also feeling that. So what Amanda and I were going to lead into now is to try and help you, or give you maybe some tools to help your staff unpick a few things. So let's have a little look.
So our job then to support our staff, to support the pupils that they've got in school. So rather than being reactive, we need to be proactive in helping them to support the children in school. And in our case, to keep them in school, really. We don't want Newton's Walk to be full of excluded children. So yeah, so in a help to include them into school life, so to be proactive. So again, supporting staff, and we know from here, supporting staff with behaviour issues it can be very emotive for them, because you can have things, that are said, aren't they? Well, that class was okay for me last year, or it's okay, I can manage him, or they never do anything wrong for me. You have all those sorts of conversations around, don't we, going? So, and then that person can think, well, why can't I manage them? Why can't I manage that class? Why are they like this for me? So there's all those sorts of things going on as well. And so it's about creating that climate where it's okay to ask for help, You know, it's not seen as a bad thing to do, or you know, just because you're not managing them in the same way. Children change as they grow up and do different things. So just some things. I'm an adult, they're a child, surely they should respect me. So that's incorrect. Respect is earned. Just because we're in the role of teachers and we are in there, going back to Lia's earlier slide, you know, I'm the big person, you're the little person, that does not bring about respect. It needs to be earned. I'm a senior member of staff. I've never had any difficulty before. You might think some of this, these are actually things that Lia and I have actually heard or have been said to us before. I've never had any difficulty before. That's a common thing is, when we're going around schools. No two pupils are the same. I'm just having a bad day. It'll be better tomorrow. So it's all okay for you to have a bad day as a well-adjusted adult. So again, this is something else that we use a lot here at Newton's Walk. So I might have a bad day driving in, you know, and that might jangle me for the morning. So some of our children have had, you know, a bad evening or have been jangled in the morning. So it's okay to have a bad day. It's how we manage it and how we help manage that child through it. This is a big one for me about attention seeking. Try and flip this to attention needing. They're just going about getting the attention in the wrong way. And we all know that, don't we? So again, it's reminding staff to think of the function of the behaviour and maybe changing the language around behaviour support when we're going about it, and thinking about, you know, how we could reframe certain things so it's not putting shame or emotion feelings on staff. If they weren't in my class, everything would be fine. This is something that we hear quite a lot of. Everything would be okay. But as you will know, would it? You know, generally speaking, someone else will step up into the limelight. And this is another thing that we all hear, or it might be year groups as well. You know, there was a thing going around the local authority that this year's year fives, when they were years three, they were always it was always being said that they would be a nightmare when they got to be in year five. So that's a thing that's said a lot. So if you know, and this is something we're big at here, if you are saying, you know, this is going to happen, and then if you can have a plan for it and change what you're going to do if everything's not been working. And it's that same, I can't remember the exact quote, if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same thing back. And in a situation, in a teacher class situation, it's the teacher and the staff that are going to change, and to bring about change about what they're doing, to bring about changing the children. So you're a brave SENCO if you're voicing this. We've got to think about what can we do. And I know from being a SENCO in school, not just from here, being a SENCO can be very, very lonely, because you're the person that's advocating for the child to all sorts of people, other agencies, members of staff, even to the dinner ladies, or, you know, different people around about, you know, trying to put forward and getting adults around school to understand the children and probably respond to their behaviours in a different way. So yeah, and then like Lia said before, on top of that, you've got your teaching to do and all the paperwork that comes with being a SENCO and all the meetings. So yeah, sometimes it can be a lonely place, but I know there's a lot of things going on now with the SENCO networks. So yeah, so incredibly tough jobs, and then supporting staff to support pupils on top of that is another big ask.
So I don't know if any of you are aware of behaviour support in the city. That too is a very lonely job, I think, because whereas in the past there used to be 5 behaviour support teachers that worked across primary. I'm not sure about secondary. I think maybe 4. So that's 60 plus primary schools, 8 secondary schools, or 12 secondary schools. So quite a large network of people. We now have 1 behaviour support teacher who's based at Newton's Walk, and some of you will have referred in before for this, for support from Coral, and as those of you who know the referred more recently, there's a waiting list because there's only one coral and there's a lot of schools that need a lot of support. And I know that those of you who have used coral are very pleased with the support that she gives you, but there's a role now for us, you as SENCOs, to actually try and support your staff before it gets to that point, because I think you guys know what you're doing, and I think you could offer support to your staff, but how to go about that may involve a conversation with senior leadership, because it will involve time. So what you need is an overview, and it's not just a conversation in the corridor, 6A or a nightmare, what you're going to do about it. You're the SENCO, you need to help me with this, or them complaining to more senior leaders about the fact that they can't cope anymore. And it is about that staff well-being as well, isn't it? That they need support, but they mustn't feel like they're failing, because that behaviour is so emotive, and no one wants to feel that they can't cope with a bunch of children in their class, because I'm a teacher and I should be able to cope. But behaviour is changing, and it has done over the years, and there's so many other things at the moment. Obviously mental health is rife, and the behaviour that comes with that, and that's not necessarily the children's mental health, staff mental health, teacher mental health, and parents mental health. This is all coming into play. So what can we get as staff? Well, we can get the data from your school system, whatever that may be, as long as people fill it all in properly. That some people use CPOMs for behaviour, some people use all paper still, which is absolutely fine. But have we got the data? Is behaviour happening in a particular subject at a particular time of day, or just for a particular member of staff? And this isn't just teachers, this might be dinner staff, might be admin staff. They might meet and greet, or they might have had a conversation with the parent before the day, and they might have said something completely inappropriate, and then there's a knock on for the rest of the school day. How well do you know your school behaviour policy? Are staff following it? Are you following it? Is it fit for purpose? Because a lot of schools, it's important that they update it. If you walked around the school, would you see the school behaviour policy being followed? And that's quite an important, an interesting thing to actually, an exercise to do, and it doesn't take very long. And it's usually very good in September and not so good in October. It's been reviewed, and we've come back with new vigour, and then it all begins to slip unless. So the high-profile behaviour children in your school, they may not be on the SEN register. They may not have a plan, probably haven't got a plan or on the SEN register because they haven't got a learning need. That's not down to you, that's people who manage that for you. So do you know the child? Have you read the file? Have you read the file from the primary school? Has the teacher read the file? Do you know the family circumstances? And there's quite a lot. We sometimes find, I know that when we move some of our high profile children to secondary, and I'm not having a go because secondaries are huge, but we send all our files over and all the information that we do personally, and it's signed for. And usually sometime in November, we have about 8 phone calls from different schools saying, oh my goodness, so-and-so is an absolute nightmare. And quite often we'll say, well, have you read the file? Oh no, we haven't received a file from you. So I will be able to ping over a screenshot of whoever signed for the file. Might have been the person on the phone, might not have been. But everything is sent, and there's usually information in the file. So and they go for transition, main transition points at July. So it is interesting to have a look at that. and encourage your staff to do it too. I mean, they shouldn't go home and off site, but they can be done in school. This is often overlooked, especially if the child is masking something and they've, often with hearing issues and sight issues, medical needs, they are overlooked, and that might be a case of getting the involved, asking for referrals to speech and language. And is there a medical need that we've missed? It's fine, parents might have missed it as well. So it is quite happens quite a lot. So ideally, I know you have no time, don't get me wrong, I know, but could you allocate time to observe and gain an overview? So are the class expectations clear? Is there evidence of this being taught? So the rules, the school rules, and then often at primary you'd have your classroom rules for how you do it in that class, or how you do it in that subject or that lesson with that particular teacher in secondaries. Is there a training need? Do you overhear conversations in staff room with staff talking about things that they know nothing about, or things that they not know nothing about, or that they may need additional training with? It might be need help, and that might include your midday supervising staff. They're very they can be very vocal, and have their own way of doing things, but they also should be following the school behaviour policy, and that might be something that you need to take back to your SLT.
Okay, so referring for support, but when we mean this, we mean like referring for support within your own school. So just a few ideas. Some of you may already be doing these sorts of things in school, some of you may not. So it might be just a bit of a memory. So teachers are busy, but are they reflecting on their own good practice? Lots of teachers, and I do this myself, I have a busy day in class arguing and managing difficult behaviours. And it wasn't until like I'll speak to Lia, or I'll speak to one of the teaching assistants, and I walk away, well, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And I think it's having that what you did well being pointed out to you as well, because managing challenging behaviours on a regular basis can be very tiring, very frustrating, and leads you questioning yourself. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And to have somebody point out what you are doing. So when we say, if you can, go and have a quick 10 minutes or a bit of an observation, focusing on the child that's got those difficulties, but also at the end of it pointing out to the teacher or the staff running the class, what they are actually doing really well, and building on that practice really. So as we all know, quality first teaching involves making reasonable adjustments. Are people making those reasonable adjustments, or are they just managing that behaviour in a punitive way? Leave the room. The other day I was speaking to somebody, and one of their consequences was to turn around and face the wall, try and get his nose on it, and then he couldn't move until like the teacher told him to. So I would argue that's not making reasonable adjustments. That's just a punitive thing that's happening, and it's really not serving the child any it's not doing anything for him, and it's it's not doing anything for the teacher either. So we're thinking like maybe have a formal referral process, so it's not just, so it might make your time management easier than having like informal conversations at the end of the day or at lunchtime or somewhere when you've got more pressing things to do. So if teachers or staff do need help, maybe a more formally type referral process could be used, one like we use for speech and language or the school nurse, because again, you can have too many conversations, those informal ones, and I know if I'm having lots of informal conversations, the minute I walk out the door I forget it, and then somebody has to come and have the same conversation with me. So even if and I think Lia is she's done a bit of a pro forma. So your information needed, possibly, It depends on your context. So are they pupil premium? Is the social care? Again, if this is appropriate to share, what's their attendance like? What are they on the code of practice? And do the teachers know? And again, I know sometimes different schools share different things. So it's if it's appropriate in your setting for the teachers to know that. What are the issues? Are they learning related? We've still got a young man here who his teacher insisted on teaching. He was in year 4, insisted on teaching him year 4 maths, and he just could not do it. So his answer to that was every time the maths lesson started, he would run, jump up, throw the tables around, and then what would happen? People would look at those secondary behaviours instead of looking to see what the trigger was. So all he needed, and he did get it eventually, was his maths differentiated down to enable him to be successful. So he was coming in full of anxieties every time, dreading for when maths would start, and then that would happen. But when it was addressed, and then he was okay, and he's doing really, really well now. It might be the time of day. It might be related to something, I don't know, if they're going to assembly and they think they might be called out, to say something, or they might be thinking I can't sit for 20 minutes. So there's all sorts of different things. Unstructured times. Lots of children struggle, being let loose at lunchtime or at play times for all sorts of different reasons. Moving around school, it could be, again, that change. How's that change managed? So again, observations would bring some of that out, and that's basically Coral. When Coral's doing her jobs, her observations, and if you've had Coral for support, that's what she bases all her advice on, as her observations. In secondary schools, it might be particular subjects or certain staff, and is there more than one subject, more than one teacher, or could we talk to the staff? Again, big, what is the function of the behaviour? What do they need? What are they avoiding? Can staff answer that reflectively? So can they think, what is this person trying to tell me? Why are they behaving in this way? I don't think many schools now use the word naughty or anything like that, and it is behaviour is a need. So some circles, they will say that behaviour, challenging behaviour, is in itself a special need, because it's coming out that a need is not being met, and that's why the behaviours are there. Again, because we focus on these high profile children, or the children that cause us more difficulties, so try and find out what they are good at, what do they like, and build on that. Attachment and trauma training, which again, I've mentioned before, lots of you would have been on, they just go on with relationships, and they're the key thing to getting, bringing around that changing behaviour, being sincere and genuine. So staff, that could be a challenge for some staff to think about one positive. It might be worth a bit of a 10 minutes in staff meeting just to do that, to see if staff can say one positive thing.
So as Amanda said, this is something that is so briefly mocked up, and I don't know what happens to these slides. I'm happy for anybody to have the slides and see that, or you can contact us and I can send you a copy of this. This was just an idea of something that you could do for your own setting, and it would need to be mocked up for something that's right for you. It doesn't look too onerous, I think, on one side of paper. Name, year group, class at the moment, pupil premium, yes or no. You could get them to just highlight boxes. Do they know if there's a diagnosis? What's the pupil good at? So that's making them think about, actually they're really good at PE or drawing or colouring in. Concerns with the behaviour. So what are they concerned at? Is it in class? Is it moving around school, unstructured times, arriving at school, assembly time, or specific lessons? And so the details of what they've actually witnessed. So that'll be it's very telling when it's actually put down on paper, or in a form. It can be quite cathartic for the member of staff, but it also makes them really think about what it is that they are seeing. Are there any triggers? So reading aloud can be a massive one for some of our children. Answering questions, so putting up the hand or getting involved. So changes of teachers or activity, so change as a thing, so changes to routine. Is it always during the PPA time? Is it because actually they were expecting to do PE on the Tuesday afternoon and now they can't do PE for whatever reason? Do they sit near the door? Is it really, really noisy in the corridor? Are their peers getting at them? Are they always the victim, or are they always doing something to their peers to annoy them or to get a reaction? Is it learning related? Is it all lessons? And then asking staff to add detail. And then the next bit was about the reasonable adjustments. So that's that quality first teaching, and actually what have they done? It's not, well, I've done nothing, I've changed nothing, they just should know how to behave in my class. Well, equity versus equality, you know, you've got to make adjustments, and they should be able to list what they've done and the impact thereof. When that remains blank, it can be very telling, but that doesn't mean that they don't need support. They probably need more support, actually. And how long have the behaviour difficulties been an issue? A data referral on that member of staff, more than welcome to have that if it's of any use to you. So
just a few things about observing. Again, many of you will probably be carrying out observations for different reasons in class, but ask teachers to prepare all pupils for your visit. There's no need for them to know why you come in, and you know, just that you will be in class. If in class during an unstructured time, this might need different prep. Like for example, if you're going to go and observe at lunchtime, and it might be just a case of you just like looking like you're popping in, just, you know, seeing what's happening, what's going on. Be on time, sit at the back, watch and take notes. Something that I've done when I've been observing is sat in a child's chair. So try and make sure either there's a chair placed out for you or you're not sitting on somebody's chair. Pay particular attention to how the pupil. What I would do as well is keep an eye on the time. Excuse me, I'm just going to have to cough. So keep an eye on the time, so you can keep frequency of what's happening. Are they being noticed being good or with their hand up? Excuse me. Apologies, sorry. Are they like, this is a big one. Are they like, do they feel liked? We have a thing here, not giving any nicknames. If you're going to give nicknames to children, give them to all of them or none of them. Try not to make it see that you know that you've got favourites, because children do pick up on that. Support staff and teacher in collaboration and not being divisive. Who are the children sitting with? Are value judgments being made? Now, value judgments, that's it. We all say, don't we, that we wouldn't do that, but sometimes we do it. I've had one when where I was at school, where a colleague of mine said to a child, "What do you mean you haven't got a table?" And she didn't mean it in any way. You know, you sit and eat your tea off your lap, and like it's like things like that. Can they see the board? Their ability to follow instructions, the actual language of your instruction. Think ASD, because they can misconstruct things. Have metaphors and idioms been used? Also think about blank levels. You know, where are the blank levels? Where's the teacher pitching the questions? Particular triggers like noise, reading, asking and answering questions. I've seen again in observations that I've made in schools, that children putting their hands up, like the person that I've gone to watch, putting his hand up, desperate to, you know, for the teacher to ask him, and he was getting out of his seat, like he was and the teacher didn't choose him at all to answer the question, and that was it. He went under the table and started, wouldn't come out from under the table and started like banging on the underneath of it. That could have been avoided if the teacher had have let him answer the question. Yeah, comments by other pupils and bullying. So they're all things to look out for and other things, and you will pick up things when you're not in the midst of it all.
So pupil voice, incredibly powerful actually, and something that's, if only we had more time, we should do more of, really. I always think children are quite amazed, especially when they come here after school, what you're asking from my point of view. You're asking what I'd like, or how help me. They're always very almost grateful, which is not right in some respects. So people, they might not want to talk, but it's important that we listen to them so that their views are captured. So choose a time, and not a time that's that they like, a PE or a subject that they particularly like, and obviously not when they're high level and dysregulated. And explain what you need to know and why. I think, children quite like to know why you're talking to them. Maybe not use too much higher order thinking, but actually, I need to find out more about you. We haven't spoken before, and I just need to know if there's anything I can do to help. I'm the SENCO. I'm here to help if you think I can. I don't know so much about you because I don't teach you or you're not in my class, and it is important. And you can do the same with the parents. Ask them what they think they're good at. I'm brilliant at. I'd like to be helped by. Then they're not in trouble. They may only see you in passing. It's building that relationship with them. You can ask them when you've started the conversation and they're beginning to trust you in that conversation. What they'll have their own take on difficult lessons. They'll know what it is, or whether it's particular teachers or pupils, or they may feel like they're being bullied. They just may feel that everybody hates them, or they may really struggle at the beginning of the day. There may be things that we don't know about, and there may be things that they don't share. And what can they do to help? Do they need something? Pedal toys, drinks, blue tacks, and different chair. There's the chef kids have some brilliant things for sort of pupil profiles, and probably not quite so secondary, but they could be kept as maybe not for displaying in the classroom, but so that you can put the photograph, you can put what they're good at, what people like about them, how they want to be supported. So there's some great resources that I'm sure you know about. And who do they like? They may really like Mrs. Goggins on the playground, who does, I don't know, play support at lunch. I don't know, but that may be somebody who's really important to them, who seems to like them. So can they be part of the team around the child?
Okay, so feeding back to staff after you've done your observations, if you do them, or if you're having meetings. So again, be clear about what you've seen and heard, including the pupil voice. Like I said earlier, acknowledge the good. It's not them that you've been observing, but the pupil. I think that's important to let staff know. There's no judgments being made on the teaching and delivery. You are there just to observe the child and what they are doing, and what we can put in place. So it's not going to become like a performance management issue or anything like that. I think staff need to be reassured about that. Decide with the staff on reasonable adjustments that can be made to meet need. Again, the word there, isn't it, is reasonable. What can they put in reasonably that could bring about a change? It could just be something like, hello, Billy, when they walk into classroom, to make them feel included. That they could put into their practice, fairly easily. Equally, it could be something that might take a bit more time and thought. So again, like Lia mentioned earlier, you're in probably the best place, you know, to give advice to your staff and pointers, signposting to additional training. I know there's lots now, isn't there? There's lots online now that you can find. There's lots of people offering support online, training online. Plus, there's all the SENCO network things, isn't there? There's lots of training being put on by the local authority online. And remember, some of your knowledge can be invaluable to other staff. And some of the things that we know and do every day in our daily practice, and we just do it automatically, you know, sometimes that could be shared with other staff and different things. I think sometimes it's difficult to put names to things when we're doing it every day and we're doing it automatically. Ensure that you make a follow-up visit and check in with the pupil regularly, and ensure that all staff are aware of the plan so that nobody can sabotage it or do it. So if you've got a plan, that's like your document to say, isn't it, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, to ensure that everybody has a good day, not just the child. If we've got children following our instruction and following our expectations, that makes everybody's day a good day, not just, you know, so it benefits everybody to be able to be managing challenging behaviour.
So really that's pretty much it. So we were just going to recap and then see if anyone's got any questions. I don't know whether there's anything in the chat because I can't see the chat now. Can Amanda? We're sharing a screen. We've had some tech issues. But so behaviour management is part of the teacher standards. SENCO's role is an advocate for all children, not just those with an EHCP. Behaviour is emotive. SEMH pupils often don't trust adults, and that's ingrained. Keep an eye on your MIS or CPOMs or whatever else it is. Just as a senior leader, you should be able to have access to that, and you should be able to keep an eye on that from a school perspective. Introduce a referral pathway that meets the needs of all your stakeholders. I mean, this could be just as simple as filling in a voxel. Or just design a quick form or a questionnaire, and you're very welcome to use ours as a starting point. Create a climate where support is encouraged. You are often the expert, and it's being available. I know you're busy, don't get me wrong, but it's trying to is there a time once a week where you can have, okay, I'm available between X and Y times, and please do drop in if you need to chat, or this is the best time to contact me. And in some of the big schools, all your schools are going to be bigger than ours, but you know, it's got to work with you, and it's listening to all the stakeholders, the teacher, the child, and the parent. And it's about offering practical support, or possibly just a voice, an ear, to enable the teaching and learning to be successful, because at the end of the day, we're schools and the teaching and learning needs to be successful. So I don't really know how to do the questions. That might be a help with the from the tech people. Oh dear.
Yes. Yeah. As you can't see the chat, I have spotted one question in the chat from Sarah Clark.
Yes, I can see that. Could we all get a copy of the referral form, please?
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that? Do we send it to you or send it to Jerry?
I'm going to suggest maybe sending it to Jerry, because I don't actually work at the university. I'm not actually an employee there. Yeah. Did you want me to read out the questions from the Q&A?
That'd be that'd be great. Maybe if I can click on that. I'm not very good at that.
No problem. That's okay. I'll start at the top then. Start with Amy Jones. Amy Jones's question is: sometimes children cannot identify or do not want to know, dare to, why they struggle. In these situations, what might support them to do this?
Okay, Amy. What I would do is one, and I'm sure you haven't, is don't give up. Keep trying different ways. And again, it'll be like that relationship, or they will talk to somebody eventually, and being sympathetic with them, not overly sympathetic. And that culture of it's okay again, isn't it, to ask for help, and just say, you know, it's okay and it will be safe. Maybe doing some observations to see what it is, see if you could pick out what's that trigger, because you're right, some children don't know, and again it goes down to that shame that people don't want to tell you, because you know they think by telling you it becomes real then, and all sorts of different things. So I just keep on trying on that one, and trying to approach it in different ways, or ask somebody that you think has got a different relationship to you, and then on.
Yeah.
I can see the Q&A. So referral, copy of the referral form. Yes, of course. I'll get it all sent to. You can have the slides as well if it's helpful. So if I send everything to Jerry, and hopefully, and I'll just say that it was asked for. So please do feel free to use them. So this way of thinking about behaviour is amazing and something that I use in my practice. However, how do we pass this knowledge on to parents to help them continuity of the support for the child? That's very interesting. I think it's building that positive relationship with the parents, and letting them know that you are there to support them, but also to encourage them about the fact that they are the adult. And it's not the case of they're big and their children are small. It's more about the case of you need to have your boundaries. You need to be clear. What do you say? Has their child recently been diagnosed with autism or ADHD? Have they had any support to actually help their child to understand that, help themselves and their partner to understand it? That consistency of parenting is very important.
And I'd also go on to say, maybe have a stand on parents' evening, or have a poster about how behaviour is managed in school, or something like that, and you know, where you have a stand at parents' evening maybe, and you talk about how behaviour is managed in school, or you know, or a tip of the week on a newsletter or something like that for parents. You know, try this week or something like that.
Social stories. Yeah, helping them, preparing them for change, because it's often change at home that's happened. You know, suddenly Auntie Susie's come along and we're going on holiday, and it's just going to happen. That, what's the problem with that? We didn't want them to kick off before, but actually you're better off trying to encourage parents to prepare children for change if they can. Obviously changes sometimes happen that are not planned for, but that's quite important. Next one, how best to navigate behavioural challenges generated by the curriculum environments. Well, that's a learning need, but also that might be down to the individual teachers of that particular curriculum area. I don't know whether that's secondary or primary.
Engagement, maybe doing different things, doing things in a different way. The children here, it's very hard to get them to think outside of the box, so we try and go around and you know, how can we get that out of them? For instance, like we have to see the children here, their experiences are very limited, so we try to give them more experiences so they become more positive and more engaged. And so it might be worth just having a look at engagement and things like that, and learning styles, and you know, that learning to be a learner and all that sort of thing might come into play there.
And then we've got here, how can schools maintain routines when there is a constant change of TA staff? I mean, this past few years, the 18 months, the changes have been extraordinary. And I think, you know, if we've got a constant change of TA staff, it's about them coming in and us being very clear of this is how we do it here, and making sure that our policies and procedures and our timetables and how we do it are are very, very clear and ingrained in the school way, so that they actually can come back and they should be able to come in and fit in and say, you know, this is how we do it here. We're not the same as another school round the corner. We do it differently here. I think that's the end of the questions that I've come to on my little tab. Is that right, John?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah, I can't see any more. Oh, I've just double check just in case. Oh, yeah. Someone's just put at the end, thank you very much for your valuable answers.
Oh, very kind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and obviously, you know, for those of you who want to get in touch with us, we are only ever at the end of the phone. And if one of us isn't here, the other one will be here, and we can swap over. So please do remember that we are only at the end of the phone if it's of any help to any of you. Yes.